So, you know, immortals, flying units, they can only attack ground units. They'll take out your roaches pretty quickly, but they're pretty effective as a ground support army in the later game. As you can see here, I've got these little things popping up. That's the, and my roaches just popped up. They are, in my opinion, they're some of the coolest looking units in the game. Yeah. But your queen has a second ability called Spawn Creep Tumor, and I really only recommend using this if you've got Spawn Larva on cooldown, or you just can't use it at this moment, and you've got the energy to cast it. The creep tumors do something cool and generate all your creep, which, you know, you need if you're going to place buildings, you know, because Zerg can only place buildings on creep. And it also, the other cool thing about creep is it gives your Berserk a movement speed bonus. I think it's about 30%. And each creep tumor can spawn one more creep tumor. So a really cool tactic that I've seen used a lot and that I try and use as much as possible is called a creep highway. And what that means is that you use your creep tumors or buildings to, you know, put down all creep right around here down to here, and this way when you're sending in units they get down here a lot faster than they would normally. As you can see, a little late. I don't recommend waiting this long to do it, but in the beginning games, you know, you might not just pay attention to it, but I've already started to expand, and there's a reason I went here. There's two good reasons why I went here rather than, you know, the much closer here. First reason is these little minerals right here give a lot more minerals than the regular blue minerals. And so they're very highly, you know, wanted, and everyone wants to get the gold minerals first. The second reason I went here instead of down here is because this area is much more likely to be assaulted if my opponents are going to attack my base than this area is. This area is a little bit out of the way, and you also have to go up a ramp to see it. So if my opponents don't realize that I'm up there, for whatever reason, then I can get away even if this place starts to go under attack. And if my opponents are coming to attack my base, they're going to see this, you know, little expansion no matter what. I mean, they have to be blind not to see it. So, as you can see, got some Zerglings built up, doubled the number of roaches I had. And, yes, I'm changing my hatchery into a lair, which is the second upgrade, and it's needed to get into the next set of units and to get some of the stronger units in the game. And in this game, I'm going Hydralisks, which are a ground unit that can attack, that's ranged, that can attack both ground and air units. In another replay I do, I'll show you a Mutalisk build, which is a flying unit that can attack ground and air units. Both are really good, but in against Terran, they have a lot of heavy anti-air stuff, so the Hydralisks are a little bit better of a shot, in my opinion. But as you can see here, I've kind of anticipated a counterattack, which never actually happened, but spine crawlers are, in my opinion, some of the best towers, and the cool thing is they can move. So if you build a base down here, they can get up and move, rather than having you have to build a new one every time. So, love spine crawlers, and their counterpart spore crawlers, which target the air units. One thing I did here, which I really wish I'd seen this to be more strategic, and I didn't, is moving these overlords right here. Now, this serves a threefold purpose. The first reason, which is the reason I do it, is to get them out of your base, because they're really annoying. And they really just kind of clog up the stuff if you're not being attacked. Second reason is to spy on your opponent. They serve pretty good scouts, and they're a little slow, but in the early game, your opponent usually doesn't have anything attacking you, so you should be fine. And they can see what your opponent's doing, and if he doesn't have anything prepared for it, they're really hard to kill. The third thing is if you have a lair, they can do this ability called Generate Creep, which I never do because I always forget they have it, and I really need to start doing it. But if you generate creep, like I said, you can only build everything but hatcheries on creep. But if you have creep down, your opponent can't build anything on top of that creep. So if this guy's pouring out creep, and this guy's pouring out creep, and there's someone over here pouring out creep, and there's one more person over here pouring out creep, your opponent can't put a base down there and start mining or getting gas from it. He'll have to kill the overlord first before he can do anything, which sets your opponent back. It moves his army, which can be very effective if you're trying to, you know, siege his base. Now, as you can see here, I've got the Hydralisks made up. They are a Starcraft 1 unit. that have returned because they're that awesome, and they're really effective, especially if you upgrade them. I did upgrade them to give them better range, so they can hit from a little farther now. As you can, the Overlord's now an ability that lets them spawn Overseers, which have a lot of eyes. It's kind of creepy. But they can do something called spawn changeling, which is the reason I did it. And they also are detectors, so they can see, which I don't think overlords are. They are not. Detectors can see any cloaked or hidden unit, burrowed or anything. But these changelings, what they'll do is when they come across an opponent's unit, they'll transform instantly into that unit and won't be attacked or take any damage. However, as you are about to see, if your opponent can spot it before it can change, you're in trouble. One thing I will mention about the Zerg is that you never really have to build a second, unit production center. And by that I mean like as you see here, my opponent has built 3 barracks, and as you just saw, let's watch that again because that was actually pretty cool. Back this up real quick. But your opponent doesn't have to. Your opponent would have to build 3 barracks if he wants to produce, more units, as well as building more command centers if he wants to put out more stuff. Oh, here it comes. That's just fun. Okay, back on topic. Your opponent will have to produce more command centers, more barracks if he wants to produce more stuff. As a Zerg player, anytime you produce a hatchery, you're automatically getting 3 larvae from it. So anytime you expand, you're actually doubling the number of units you can produce. So, and while some people will say, well, that's not good because, hatcheries and layers require double the amount of resources that just a simple barracks does, but it is kind of good because you're going to be building more hatcheries no matter what. And I mean, we can get up to 7 units at a time that can all be spawning simultaneously. So Zerg can put out some ridiculous numbers pretty quickly. And as you can see, I have, both of my stuff, both of my armies kind of being built up. Oh, I can't believe I forgot this. One good thing about the queens, and one of my favorite things, as you can see, my queen has a kill, and I accidentally missed that part. Queens are very good defensive units. They can target air or ground units. And as you can see, they have quite a bit of health. So don't just think they're just going to sit there when an army comes attacking and get their, whatever you consider their butts to be kicked. They will be able to fight back. I mean, of course, they can get, if this army came and attacked the queen's not going to stand a chance. But, yep, my overlord's down here, barely survives. I think my opponent wasn't too happy about that. Thank God for regeneration. But yeah, barely survives. Thank God for the speed boost and the regeneration aspect of the Zerg. But, I mean, the queen's a very good defensive unit, and I have seen a few queen spawns, but I don't recommend that. They're not that powerful. They're very slow off the creep. And, they are good defensive units, though, and will help if you're with your main army and your spore crawlers.